So MSA Nipper Foxtrot 8-9 Foxtrot. So this would have been definitely working downrange when we needed to either troubleshoot some fiber, or if we actually were standing up like a new building and we of course had to run that through an ITN or the inter-transit node. It's kind of like a portable box, a container that typically houses like, I think we had the 6500 series, a pair of those, and either 6, 8, however many ITNs were spread throughout the environment there. And that's so that all the buildings, of course, could run to that. And then each of those ITNs ran to a centralized core set of switches or routers throughout the base. So it's kind of like one of those old school 3-layer topologies that we had, but spent a lot of time like in the heat in those ITN boxes, and wasn't a cable dog myself, but big shout out to those guys and gals that without layer 1, we definitely couldn't do our job as network engineers. But these were just the labels that we needed to either do. And like I said, back then when I got my first like true network job, like this again is LC to LC, I would guess. This fiber cable here most likely won't need, not sure why I carry this around in my grab bag, but first time I saw MTRJ, I think that's the name of it, the little black clips. And of course, most of the fiber was SC to LC, but I learned a lot on that job there in Kandahar, and of course, hopped all around Afghanistan, Iraq, Kuwait, just the whole Middle East. But this definitely brings back a lot of memories. And that's what today's video is about, is really was going through some of the notebooks that I got here, and just tons and tons of notes, and just want to really just briefly speak about, like, you know, not to say my time in the sandbox, but just some of these raw notes, and then wrap the video up with kind of why I think even in today's modern network, why taking notes by hand can definitely be a tool that is useful, not only on the job, but years down the road when we just pause, take a break like I'm doing now, and just look back on how far we've come. So we see here, this one right here, PAX terminal, comm closet, and then we see some notes about ASA upgrades. So this again, right here, this was in a siloed environment where the network guys and gals, like, even though we see ASA there, we probably could ping to it, but that was a whole separate team that managed the firewalls. Like, at that time in my life, other than buying some firewalls on eBay, I really just couldn't break into a role or a job that let me get my hands on the terminal. So this was probably taking notes, and gonna go back to that team. Now, we, like I said, most of the people were cool with each other. If you wanted to learn like outside of your role, if the job allowed, especially those 12-hour shifts, then a lot of these jobs permitted that to do that. But on the clock, like I said, it just depended on the fob or the base, the camp, the leadership, etc., where you were, and of course that need to know. But that's the memories that I get of this is, of course, that right there. And then we see EEM scripts for air disabled. And I remember TCL scripts, or we called it Tickle. Tickle, I think, is the proper pronunciation, but shout out to METHOD, man. But this was like, not to say automation or things when it was kind of new, but for a lot of us network engineers, like, this was super fascinating, super cool that you didn't just have to manually, sequentially have to type things. Like, especially a lot of us didn't come from the Windows or the Linux background, or just, you know, server environments that didn't have a lot of those type of skill sets. Just like I said, I know a lot of those folks are like, that's just a basic script here. You could do this with Bash, Perl, all of these type of things. But like I said, a lot of folks that just cut their teeth in just networking, and they saw kind of the beauty and the power of being able to trigger those off of an event. And and then we of course had to start studying for certifications. But this was just a note to self that, you know, I wrote down to go back and kind of look into that. Google was big, but the internet was different back in, you know, 2008, 9, 2013, and all of those type of years. Just the resources and things weren't as abundant, especially freely, So a lot of us really shared, whether it was courseware, whether it was books and things like that. Like, one person brought this and that, and then whether it was, after hours or in the shop, a lot of us just really studied together. And I think I see it some in our community today about study groups, and I see some folks out there doing some great things. But I think, not to say it's died down, but at least here stateside, I know overseas is still a big thing, but it seems, not to say isolationist, but not to say good or best mechanism. I don't want to speak in the macro sense, but just that grind of having study buddies, I don't see that community type like as prevalent these days. And I get it. The world's moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Families, life, problems, etc. makes it a little bit more difficult. And just the sheer options that we have these days are a little bit different than, yesteryear's times going past. But I still do miss those times. And just a simple note like this kind of reminds me of certain faces, certain people's. I always say Darren Lindsay. I got some of his Cisco Press books up there because he wrote them on the spine. And that's a note right here, just topology you see right here. Darren Lindsay. This is just, this was a long hop. Like I said, we talked about the 3-tier hierarchy, access, distro core. I know there's some 2-tier collapse type. There's some folks with layer 3 all the way. But back then, like, those were the hops. You typically have 3 or 4 hops at the most, maybe one building or one floor jump to another building. And back then, especially with wireless, and wasn't as prevalent out there with the flight lines and things like that. But it was a lot of, not to say dirty cable, we had a thing called dirty net where it was like, well, I won't speak about, like, it wasn't dirty in that sense, but it's the internet in places that, like, you kind of probably didn't need to have it. But when we talk about class and unclass and things like that, just jobs and cables, and like, to get the job done, sometimes we had to get it done in whatever way. So seeing all of these hops here just makes me kind of think back to why this was ran that way. There, especially in the UAE or in Dubai, working there, there's some special use cases, especially, I'll just leave that at that. But there's some unique ways and locations that we had to get traffic to someone for a certain reason. So that's what this note right here brings back some memories of, to be quite honest. And then we see 22 sites, 16 provinces, etc. Site details. These are like high level of kind of how, I believe this was in Afghanistan. This was probably in Kabul. Not to, again, I always try, and they will never disclose anything classified, but this was kind of a breakdown of when we help certain entities for the Afghan government and help them to do network migrations, rebuilds of their servers, etc. Kind of out in the provinces and in the community of understanding how their communications were set up. And so this was kind of almost a 10,000 foot view to even be able to, of course, start getting drawings. A lot of sites didn't have network drawings. And this was when I began to kind of travel around and outside of the bases and things like that to assist with these type of missions. So again, this one, that role, that job, the people for that specific mission holds a special place kind of in my heart, just because of what we all together kind of did and together and achieved. So I remember the notes or this specific job role and just the many missions that we had to do there. And so this one right here, we see here is just a quick sketch, almost like a table. So I do have a notepad, but a lot of times, like let me scribble this off, especially not to say when you got nasty with it, but sometimes your time is limited. So, you might go back to the shop and do a Visio diagram or something like that, but out there in the dirty, no cameras, no this and that, it's just your good old notebook or whatever. Sometimes you just had like the room for 30 or 40 seconds. So you needed to be able to kind of like just walk without like sitting down, taking your time. Let me see if I could draw. Like if I'm not even looking, I would need to be able to know, okay, there's probably, oh, this is terrible. There's like this many rooms. This is CNTSNN. This, maybe I'll put a P for phone. Maybe I'll put something like that. P for printer, like C for camera, like that for a door, whatever. We needed to be able to just do like raw notes and things like that. And when we got back to the shop, we beautified it or made it better. But time was definitely precious. Always being aware of your surroundings and just making the most out of the resource that you had, the environment. There are so many missions across the Middle East. Yeah, it's life. Like it's not just supporting, it's countries and people and places, even here in America now. Not to say have to fend for themselves, but you always have to do more with less. And that's the thing. That's one of the things that I got, taking a side step from the notes, is I'm always appreciative of the ability to have gotten to travel. I mean, not only, the lives that we were able to touch and embrace and the cool memories that, of course, will always remain up here. So I'm not really a big picture guy. Don't have a lot of photos. But like I said, it's cool to just pause and take a step back, see these notes, and to, I won't say trigger memories, but to know that there were times, not just in, my role, my life, jobs, but in my studies. You see a lot of notes. There's some I'm not going to pull them up. There's some CME, Cisco Call Manager Express. I think 1811 always sticks in my head as one of the first routers. It was like 400 or something, I think, from eBay. From memory, it might have been 1 or 2 routers, 3 switches, 2 phones that are still in the basement, and a little maybe 18-ish RU with wheels. And that was just my first lab when I was studying for CCNA voice and CCNP voice, which was what I thought I would eventually go into, but didn't ever really fully get a role of that. And I'd like to make some videos too to just discuss kind of true on the job, either today or the yesteryears. I think that's the thing too. And I know I'm rambling now, so I'm probably not gonna cut this out, but big props for everybody that stuck around this long. But that's the thing too, is it's hard when people say, hey, I want to study cyber. I want to be a server administrator. I want to be a Wi-Fi, this and that. And, it's cool to know 3, 4, 5 sentences of a technology. And we all got to start, myself, didn't know what I was getting myself into. But I think it's part of mentorship, that free knowledge or telling of the stories. I think to be able to hear some stories about someone's path, walk, what they saw, what they observed, the paths that they could have went this way, but they went that way instead. Folks think if you get this CCIE, you're supposed to have this and that. I think it's kind of cool to be able to share those, but I won't say it's missing. And I get it. We kind of live in a world of grab someone's attention for 30 seconds. So to be quite honest and frank, a lot of the video, I'm super appreciative of everyone out there, but I think sometimes when you just want to ramble and get this stuff off your mind, these videos, it's not that they're not appreciated, but I mean, they might have an average of 40-second of retention rate. Because I get it. People get to the point, or I just want to know the answer to this problem, or I just want to hear this, how much money you make or this. But like I said, as you get older in life, more experience, more knowledge in the game, things tend to slow down. And I think you become more appreciative of if someone would have said this, or if someone would have shared this part of a knowledge with you, that it could have saved you 6 months or saved you 2 jobs, that you probably would have made decisions. We each walk our own path. We each make our own decisions, our own destiny. But at this season of my life, like I said, I think I'm slowing down a bit when it comes to want to do super Palo specific, super CCIE specific, and just really wanting to talk. And I don't know how the channel will change. I don't know how this edit's gonna ultimately come out, because like I said, this is a weird kind of video, just thinking about already the cuts that I will need to make. But I think some of this raw type of I won't say imagery, but of a video probably needs to exist, even if it gets 50 views or 60 views, maybe 10, 15 years down the road, when we look back. Just raw talks, just normal, someone sharing their thoughts. Someone will benefit from it. But again, I'm rambling right now. I know I do that here a lot lately, but I just wanted to stop and just talk really about so many pages in here, some stuff that but like I said, I just think in closing this and wrapping it, it's still a good thing to be able to just write and not, I mean, it's cool to type everything or speech to text and all of that, but it's nothing like having just notebooks of material to be able to, not to show someone else, but like I said, getting older and getting to this age, I think they bring back a lot of memories, and they put you in a seat of where you were at that moment. And I just myself can only speak for myself. It's much appreciated, and it tells a little bit of the tale of the path and the journey that was walked, because each decision, each success, each failure, each yes, each no, it's all a part of your journey. So that's the thing when it comes to, pursuing a CCIE or PCNSE, whatever certification. At the end of the day, I mean, I've said it in the video where I kind of got my CCIE and talked about it. Amazing day to pass and to get that score, but life goes on. Like the next day, the next week, whenever that high you get off of it, it's the next thing. And so it's just when you can pause and reflect and think about the sweat equity and how much you put into it, the people around you kind of have to, I won't say suffer, but also, well, not commit, not dedicate, but the word's escaping me right now, but basically give up their time with you. For those of you out there that know what I mean, it just means a lot. So I want to thank each and one of you again for always rocking in here with me. This will be a mostly raw and uncut video. I'm not too big on heavy editing out the ums and that kind of thing at this part of my career. Like I said, we'll see how these videos do years down the road. But for anyone that watches this whole video, I'm super appreciative, and always would love your honest feedback, opinions, and things like that down in the comments. So until next time, stay safe, take care of yourselves, peace.